Nothing near post, fam. We're here. It's Final Four week. It's Memorial Day weekend. Arguably the best weekend of lacrosse on the year. Arguably. Excited to have Coach Bolkin back this week. We're going to chat a little bit about the games that happened this past weekend. And we got a little something special for you that we pulled together, which we think will be a fun conversation for sure. But before we get into all of that, a little bit of line drills. Coach Bolkin, anything fun over the weekend?
Just a 5-year-old's birthday party during, literally in Annapolis while the Penn State Notre Dame game was taking place. Kept getting my hand smacked, trying to check my phone, check the scores, while we're on a pirate boat. But other than that, no, was excited for Penn State, that's for sure. And 3 or 4 really good games. If you like defense, the Maryland game's for you, but the other 3 really set the tone from a excitement perspective, I feel like.
No doubt. No doubt. I actually dusted off the whistle and the whiteboard. I was on the lacrosse field for a lot of it. Some know, some don't. I coach an international team, coach with the Israeli national team, and we had training camp this weekend. Good to get a lot of the fellas together as we prepare for the European Championships this summer in Wrocław, Poland. So it's good to get on the field. It's actually interesting. Offensive and defensive coordinators couldn't be there, so I was kind of a single dad. I washed and dried this weekend, and also allowed me to get in their kitchens a little bit and be a part of the X's and O's more so than I usually am. So that was fun, but we'll talk a little bit about it. Once I got the wheels turning, watching the Syracuse Princeton game offensively was just a masterclass by both units. And if you're an X's and O's person or an offensive coordinator, watch that freaking game closely because both sides of the ball, their offensive concepts are awesome. Now, granted, you got to have really good players, but some of the stuff you could execute even without really good players. So we'll certainly dive into that. But trying to think anything else. We had some NHL over the weekend. We had some clinching series. Freaking Toronto does it again, man. Death taxes and the Maple Leafs not getting past the second round.
Oh man, I think everybody. I don't know if you've seen the argument people have made, like if that team wasn't in Toronto dealing with the pressure that comes with playing in Toronto, they'd be a problem. That's going to be their issue for maybe forever. It's just interesting. Like I don't know how often you saw like how many people are always pointing out how like little they see Marner's or Matthews sweating. Like they're just they got buckets off in the third period. They're like haven't dropped a bead of sweat, which is crazy.
You don't think they're just in really good shape?
No,
Doesn't
I'm sure they are, but it's just one of those funny things that people keep pointing out. You're like, I don't know, man. Like, there's no way they're not working hard, but it's just amazing to see.
the Marner coming over to the bench and saying wake the f up, and like you
Yeah,
said, without a bead of sweat anywhere was insanity.
it's a look, that's for sure.
Uh,
But no, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but like Marner's dad was the crazy like youth sports parent. There's a couple clips of him like watching Mitch play when he was maybe 9 years old, just giving it to him through the glass. And like after the game, he's like, hey, you played good in the third period, but what the hell were you doing first and second? Like it was, and I've heard some other stories about like just guys just on another level. He's out of his mind.
Insanity. Well, and then we had
Yeah,
the Winnipeg Dallas Stars series end. Incredible story with Mark Scheifele's father passing away, him scoring a goal, the first goal of the night. The Dallas Stars fans donating $55 a piece to the foundation that was set up in his name, or at least was there to support. Just incredible outpouring, and that was just kind of what makes sports so awesome. But certainly something unthinkable to happen before a clinching game that you're about to go play in front of millions of eyeballs. But certainly thoughts to the Shifley family. But Yeah, a hell of a time for sports. I mean, you could argue this is the best time of year for sports, in my opinion.
Oh, PGA Championship too, dude. It's great.
Oh, Scheffler,
He's
Scotty
got it.
Scheffler. What he wore burnt orange on Friday, right? It was his second time wearing orange, or Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I think jumping into the games, I think we do this chronologically. I think we're going to be pretty quick here. Don't need to dive into them too much, but four awesome games, three of them kind of all for the same reason. And then the fourth one had a little bit of a different tone, but Cornell Richmond 13-12 at Hofstra and a come from behind victory by the Big Red. I mean, Richmond had them on the ropes, Second ranked team defense, like Coach Richards had those guys ready to go. Tommy Stahl, Hunter Smith, the whole crew was just balling out early. And then, I mean, to be honest with you, Ryan Goldstein kind of held the whole thing together in quarters 1 through 3 and did
Hmm.
his thing and kept them within striking distance. On incredible, incredible for the end of the third into the fourth quarter for the Big Red, and your heart goes out to Richmond and the Spiders because they played well enough to win the game.
Yeah. No, I think that game for my money was like, we'll talk about Princeton Cuse in a second. I was just like so blown away by like the chess match coaching wise, like on both sides of the ball, was my favorite. I didn't get to watch the Penn State Notre Dame game. Obviously, that was a big time run, but I think just the big time body shots over and over, like back and forth throughout the entire game. And again, like it's a little bit lower scoring. I mean, 13-12 is a lot of goals, but um, every goal just felt like so huge. It never got, the spread never opened up. It was such a well played, well coached game. And then my favorite piece of it is it did come down to kind of those, you know, not a scripted play, Curse picks off a pass in the ride, gets a ride back, whatever. Like those little plays like that are still what such a great game like that come down to. And, I just think they ended up making more of those plays in the second half.
Yeah, man, game of inches. Shout out Any Given Sunday and Al Pacino.
Al
Um,
Pacino.
Great movie. I just feel for the Spiders, man. They 2 1 goal losses to the number one team in the country.
Dude.
Zach Vigu played well enough in net to win, and
Hmm.
so much better than Wyatt Nust. And I'm a Wyatt Nust fan. Like he just didn't have a great day, but Vigu played well enough to win, and that as a goaltender is so gut wrenching.
Yeah. No, I mean, the fact that Cornell survived like an off day by their goalie just kind of tells you how good they're going to be and can be. And, anybody complaining about first round matchups, who had to play who, like, you got to beat somebody. And then again, like, Richmond beats UNC and then gets rewarded with having to play Cornell again. So it's that time of year where you're going to have to beat a killer no matter what you do.
Yeah, and I mean, last thing on this, again, Richmond's top dog, Aiden O'Neill, 1 point. Tough,
Quite.
tough. 6 shots, 1 goal. You feel for him because I'm sure he wanted to do more, but I also know that that's a team offense. They got good looks. They scored 13 goals. I don't think he's looking to get his, but maybe he needed to a little bit more. I don't know, but also Little John blanked, which is crazy because I don't think Cornell's known for their defense.
I mean, it's not a calling card when, the main attraction is, CJ Kirst, but that was an impressive performance, limiting those two guys alone. And then, what's his name? I'm looking at it real quick. We talked about him last time I was on, Max Merklinger. And my boy, Leo Kane stuck that thing was a beautiful low to high from the wing, lefty shot. Leo Kane scored one on there.
Ultimately, the Big Red law firm Kirst, Goldstein, and Long was just too much. 14 points combined. Michael Long 0-4, CJ 2-2, Goldstein 4-2. Just an incredible
Yeah.
performance by those three guys. So hell of a game, start to finish. And then you roll right into Princeton Syracuse. So you get a 1-goal game, 13-12, Cornell over Richmond. Then you roll right into Princeton Syracuse. The return of Joey Spallina to Hofstra, right? Return of Michael Leo to the island. Uh,
Yeah.
just, and I'm sure Princeton's got a bunch of Long Island guys too. I can't think off the top of my head, but I mean, defense optional. And people are going to say the goaltending was optional, but both of them had 13 saves. But here's the crazy thing. I wrote this down. Obviously, a game of runs. Okay, so here it is. 37 total goals, but not a single goal in the last 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So they scored 37 total goals in just over 46 minutes. 56 minutes.
Only 2 man-up goals the entire day, too. Combined.
Only 2 man-up goals. 90.
Which,
Go ahead.
you get those two teams a man-up, ball might as well be in the back of the net already.
Well, and I wrote that down. Cuse is, I don't know what they are right now, but they're a top 5 extra man unit in the country. Princeton was ready for them. Yeah, they went 2 for 4 on the day, but one of their 2 came off of a scramble drill, like ground ball, broken play, throw it, move the ball off the ground, and then skip it to the pipe. So it wasn't even really kind of a well-executed extra man.
Yeah.
But this blew my mind. 93 total shots between the two teams. 63 of them were on goal. 63 shots between the two teams on goal. And then both goalies, 13 saves. And I think you probably look at the box score, or you look at the scoreboard, and you're like, Jesus, did the goalies not show up today? They put an eliminator in there, a giant orange parking cone, but both of them made 13 and made big ones in tight spots. So I don't think it was the netminders. I think just both defenses were struggling against elite offenses. One thing I do want to call out, though, Riley Figueres arguably won them that game. You look at the box score, and I'm pretty sure Mackesy was relatively quiet for kind of what he usually does. Yeah, 3-0 on the day, but it felt like in crunch time when they were going to him, Figueres found ways to put the ball on the ground or hush him up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, 3 for 6. Felt like, I don't know, he definitely was quiet. And I think Princeton definitely leaned on, Wade. They leaned on Burns. And then the kid that, lit it up was the Bonono kid.
Awesome. Uncoverable with a short stick. Uncoverable.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I was talking actually with Coach O'Dearna after the game. Defensively, they had no answer for him or Chad Palumbo. And it was, I think they had 14 points between the two of them or something like that.
Chad Palumbo just dragging dudes around, just hanging on for dear life while he runs through the middle of the field. It was awesome.
Just an incredible offensive showing by both teams, right? By both teams. Obviously, you had the 4-4 from Spallina. Michael Leo was 3-0. His extra man, Michael Leo's extra man goal, the really only extra man goal in my eyes as far as execution. If you're an X's and O's guy, go back and watch Michael Leo's extra man goal. They kind of do this 6-man drag and replace. It's really neat. But the way he caught that thing and in one motion, kind of from his hip, low to high to the far post, that one deserved his Archer quiver arrow celebration. that one was dotted for the corner for sure. And then Owen Hiltz quietly 3-2, right? It's just, you score 19 and you got goals all over the place, which was really cool. The rookie Peyton Anderson had 2. Just an incredible game offensively. And again, going back to the Tigers, schematically, the Tigers and Syracuse for that matter both run really cool stuff. Really
Mm-hmm.
cool stuff. So if you're a coach looking to pick up a few things, I'd go back and watch that game. I mean, dare I say this? Joey Spallina wins the Molshine matchup,
Oh yeah,
and then they switch it, and then Joey gets 4 assists on the kid from California, Jack Stahl. I mean,
yeah.
big ups to Jack Stahl, sophomore out of Newport Beach from St. Margaret's, but Joey Spallina wins that matchup, and Coulter Mackesy, and I'd argue, yeah, he was 3-0, but Riley Figueres won that matchup. So there it is. Like there's your 1 goal game.
Yeah, I thought early on when Joey was scoring goals, like they were setting a pick for him at X. He was just getting just like 2 steps and just getting some momentum built up, and I think it was Molshine you said, right? Like that poor guy, like he would try to beat Joey above goal line, and Joey was just already had his shoulder down and was just, kind of having his way with him. I kept seeing Molshine with his like hands like pinned to his chest instead of like extending just a little bit. We talked about it too. Like a V hold wouldn't have hurt him, especially on that island right there, making Joey maybe roll back underneath to his left hand. Would have been, I don't know, would have liked to see him not score the same goal 3 times, but like props to him. He took advantage of, how he was being played.
No doubt. No doubt. And I think to put a bow on this one, got to give a shout out because we're nothing near post, but Michael Ippolito.
Oh, that was awesome.
Huge save on EMO. Dope outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Dwan doesn't catch it. Comes right
Yeah,
back
Billy,
down
come
there.
on, man. What are we
Dude,
doing?
put it right where it needed to be. Comes right back down their throats. Either makes another save or it's just wide, and they get it out. And what a momentum change, right? For
Yep.
that guy to come in and make that save, and make 2 saves, if not 1.5, maybe at least make the guy miss and be able to get it out. And what a momentum change that was, because I'm pretty sure. So Cuse wins the draw at the end of the first half. So they started
With,
with the ball.
with
Kill
1.4 seconds left, they win the face-off. So they're on a 2-minute non-releasable. They immediately are able to kill, around 80 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that right there. I was texting with a Princeton alum, and who was losing his mind at that stage. Like couldn't believe that that's how you get rewarded for getting a 2-minute non-releasable is you lose a face-off. You don't even get to really ever go man up. It was a killer.
Nope. You got one look and Ip shut the door. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think the last, and I know Ip was going to be the last thing, and he should be because he deserves it. But Syracuse scored 19 goals, and Luke Roa didn't have a single one.
Ooh, yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm spot on that. Yeah, Luke Roa,
think
0
you're
for 0
correct.
for 6 shooting, 1 turnover. And that is just as balanced as you can get. Like you're one of your first line midfielders doesn't have anything, you still score 19. Imagine how many
Yeah,
people would love to have that freaking luxury. But
no doubt.
uh, so those are our 2 Saturday games. Again, Princeton Syracuse, that was an offensive onslaught. Really cool to watch. Next one up, first game on Sunday, Penn State Notre Dame. In my head, obviously, there was the big comeback because what? It was 12-6. Uh, Penn State comes back in the second half. I think there's only really one thing to talk about here. What are we doing game plan wise with covering Matt Trainer? Or yeah, Matt Trainer. What are we doing? Where's Sean Light? And maybe I clearly don't know anything, and I know Coach Wellner's a great coach. I can't find a reason. I cannot find a reason.
I don't know. I mean, again, every once in a while, you're going to play a team that you say, if they're going to beat us, this guy's got to have 5, 6. And Matt Trainer put his chips on the table. He said, "Yeah, that's fine. I can do that." And he was the difference. If that guy has 3 goals, they lose by a goal. Like that's still a good day for Matt Trainer. It's not 6-1. Um,
Insanity.
but again, like this is the one game that I didn't see anything of, other than knowing that my boy Reed Gills from Severn. battled back in the second half, especially. He's a guy that doesn't get phased by much. Kid doesn't have a pulse sometimes, it feels like. But Will Lynch, big matchup for him. I think he's a fifth-year senior. Reed Gill's a true freshman. So for him to be able to win some big ones down the stretch when they're on that run was huge. Pretty cool to see a kid like Reed. He's a backup all year. And now with their starting faceoff guy Colby Baldwin being hurt, it's this is incredible what he's done so far.
Yeah, I mean, 3 for 10 the third quarter, and then he goes 50% in the fourth quarter. Like, show up when it matters.
What else do you need to do?
Nothing, man. Nothing. I think the other interesting piece, and I don't think this hurt Notre Dame all that much, but having been a box coach in a former life and now being a head coach in another capacity, I know how important riding and clearing is. Three or four offsides for Notre Dame in the first half. One for a 30-second penalty and two for just turnovers. Ryder Garnsey's going to have a tough Monday, Tuesday meeting or whenever that one is as a box coach, because as much control as you, or as little control as you have over that box, you've got some, and you need to be able to communicate and get that stuff right.
You got to be able to clothesline one or two kids. It's and if they're not afraid that you'll do it, you haven't done it enough. Being a box coach is the worst. It is the worst thing in a game like that, especially up and down. I mean, God knows if anybody was running a box in the Princeton Cuse game with how much the ball was up and down, but it was going so fast. Who could have caught an offsides here or there?
Coach Aquaviva, that's who. No,
yeah, that's right. Fair enough.
It was mind-blowing, and I don't know if we just didn't execute coming out of practice, and it seemed just like boneheaded stuff, but again, it didn't hurt them because they were still able to go up 12-6, but just head-scratching. I mean, kudos to Penn State, man. Matt Traynor obviously had a day, but they're collectively on offense, they just move all the time. And they're running action to set up better action and it showed, and I mean, watching team offense is a lot of fun.
They one thing that I've heard Coach Tambo talk about all the time is I just remember seeing him say with his fingers pinched like this, timely cutters. And if you are not a good cutting off-ball midfielder, you're probably not playing for that offense. If you're this big downhill, head down, get down the righty alley guy, you're probably not going to play a whole lot in that scheme. It's you watch Penn State, their midfielders cut so well, and it's not to get the ball half the time. It's crazy.
I mean, manipulation of a defense, it's everything. You don't have to be the one that scores, you got to be the one that manipulates it so somebody else can, and then you go high-five that guy.
Johnny Haas runs the shit out of the offense. Good for him. He's the man.
It's awesome. And I think I was reading something, Tambroni's going back to the Final Four, to the same place, Gillette Stadium, that they played in the Final Four previously. And if I remember correctly, who'd they lose to in that championship game?
Cuse.
Another team sitting on the other side of the bracket waiting for them right over there. I don't know. Just the world might have something up its sleeve. I might put my old tinfoil hat on over here and just, wish it into existence.
Yeah.
But
I mean, who do you think he really wants to see from that side of the bracket, though?
Oh boy. I mean, pick your poison at this point, man. Everybody's good. I'm not sure.
The devil, though. You played Maryland once. Comfort factor in a way.
Potentially. And I mean, let's call a spade. Maryland's offense is nothing compared to what Syracuse is capable of on a good day. Would you rather just make it a Big Ten backyard brawl? just sort of defenses against each other and, lean on that side and hope Matt Trainor's better than Eric Spanos. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just think, again, it's the tough to beat a team 3 times. Maryland's beaten Penn State twice already. It's not. It's crazy how many times we've seen that happen. These teams from the same conference end up playing each other again in an NCAA tournament, and not for anything. I'm sure Maryland would have some crazy wrinkle, that Tills is just waiting on. After watching two games, knowing what he could do. And if anybody can wipe a guy off the face of the planet from an offensive perspective, it's Coach Tills and Coach Bernhard. So I don't know.
Yeah, and Schaller. You got to imagine they put Schaller on Trainer.
That'd be a great. I mean, I'm sure. I don't watch those 2 games at the beginning of the year, but I'm sure that's part of it.
Yeah. All right. So Penn State gets the upset. I guess before we go on, and I saw some of this on X. Somebody tweeted out the end of a dynasty. Is 2 national championships a dynasty?
First off, why's it got to be the end of anything? That's just stupid. It's literally like what Notre Dame's done in the past 5 years has been. You could talk to any coach in the country, be like, "Hey, this is what you could have right now," but you're going to lose the year after you win 2 in a row, and everybody be like, "Yeah, I'll take that deal." So don't dynasty. I don't think you could have a dynasty really in college sports. It's a 4-year turnover. Not even now it's crazy. So I don't know. Don't give me that. I just think Notre Dame will be back, and maybe not quite the same level. Losing. There isn't any more Kavanaughs rolling around, right? I think they'll be solid offensively, maybe better just because of that. They had some young bucks running out there. I don't know. I don't like to get into the dynasty talk because I don't really give it any credence.
They're gonna lose all 3 attackmen. There's 3 attack spots open, so that'll be interesting. I gotta believe Picorni will slide into one of those spots.
Yeah.
Potentially the Jeffries kid, but then you still need sort of a ball handler. But I'm sure Coach Woj and Coach Corrigan will get something dialed up. But I'm with you. 2 is not a dynasty, but I think it's a good segue talking about dynasties and you saying that 4-year turnovers, you can't have a dynasty. What about Coach Tills taking the Terps to, what is it now? 11 out of 17 Final Fours and 20, and he hasn't taken all of them, but they've gone to 22 straight NCAA tournaments?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure every senior class that's played all 4 years has been to at least one in his time there.
I think it's 3. I think you've been to the Final Four 3 times if you've been at Maryland while Tills has been there.
That is, and I'm sure some guys did 5th years and whatever, but that's silly. That doesn't just happen. So what he's able to do, and he finds a different identity every single year, and it seemingly happens right around this time, right around tournament time. They just become a different team somehow. He kicks them into high gear. He takes the reins of one side of the ball, and they just turn into a different animal. I don't know that I could point to anybody else being like that. There's teams that get hot, and win a national championship, like UNC, they weren't doing anything different. They just kind of everything clicked for them. They got a little bit of everything when they won it. What is it, 2016 or 17? Maryland will play one way all year long, and then they'll just be like, all right, now we're going to do this. And last year I felt like everything he dialed up, the ball was in the back of the net. It was crazy. So now I feel like, we're going to just see them lean on their defense again. Even after they lost some killers the last few years, and maybe a little bit more faceless on the D end, not that they don't have good players, but no headliners outside of, their goalie. But maybe that's just who they are, which is awesome.
Well, and it's interesting you say that. He even made the comment post game or maybe at halftime. They don't have any. I don't know if he used the word alphas or if the guys calling the game used the word alphas because they heard it in the production meeting, which I don't know if you watched this one, but the production meeting over Zoom where they let Warren and Tills into the Zoom at the same time. Hilarious. I had no idea those guys were
Yeah.
so tight. I knew they were close just because Warren coached there, but
Yeah.
they're boys. Tills sends Coach Warren's kids Terps gear and they wear it around the house. Even this week leading up to the game, Coach Warren's kids, Coach Warren, the head coach at Georgetown, was wearing or his kids were wearing Terps gear around the house. Just it just speaks to the brotherhood, I think, of the sport, which is just really cool to see. And a hell of a matchup, Maryland Georgetown 9-6 final. Georgetown just couldn't get anything going against that Maryland defense.
No, you get no transition against Maryland ever. Like you just it doesn't seem to happen anywhere you look.
Which is crazy because they don't ride. They don't
No,
ride.
well, that's the thing. They're just they'll slow you up. That's all they're looking to do. They're not looking to like ride the ball back, but I'm sure they'd love it, but they don't. That's not their main goal. Middies get their ass back in the hole and they get subbed up and they just play hat on a hat.
Yeah, and they trust it. It's great. I mean, 9-6 game. No one's going to blow up the score sheet. Braden Erksa obviously had a big one at 3-1. Did take 10 shots, but he was good. Georgetown just couldn't get Bayman going. Aiden Carroll 2-1, which I mean a good day,
That was kind
but
of quiet actually. I didn't
it's
really even notice that, even
ex-
though they only had 6 goals.
exactly. Lucas Dudemain with 2, Carroll with 2, Cade Goldberg with 1, Fulton Bayman with 1, and then that was all for the Georgetown goals. And what's actually kind of cool, and I love this. I think any offensive coordinator would love this. Silver lining: 5 assists on 6 goals. Now he only scored 6 goals over 60 minutes, so that ain't a good number. But I don't know. Share the rock. So and then on the Maryland side, Eric Spanos 1-1, Urksa 3-1, Whittier 1-0, Bryce Ford 1-2, Daniel Kelly 2-0, Jordy Holmes 1-0, and they too 9 goals, 8 assists. So two offenses that were sharing the rock, and to be honest with you, two stout defenses, and that's the best way that you're going to be able to beat them. You've got to
Well,
share the
yeah,
rock.
I think that's the way those two teams play defense. You're not winning one-on-one matchups and getting to the middle of the field and dunking the ball. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I think it's pretty awesome, and I think those defenses dictate that level of offense you have to play, and it shows. Like it's not as easy as it looks sometimes, especially when you're playing that good a defense. So no, props to both teams. And I actually loved. You usually don't see Tills get too fired up, but they're up by I think 2 goals at one point pretty late in the game. Ref gets all turned around on a shot going out of bounds off a sideline. I don't know if you remember this or not, but like the ref was so adamant that this midfielder coming in from like the box, like top of the screen, for Georgetown was there, and it should have been Maryland ball. And like Tills was like out over the midfield line, and like couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, that's not a good call. But typically, even like he's usually just kind of ho humming it on the sideline. He doesn't really give you much, but that was he was he knew 2 goals was still tight, and his offense wasn't like clicking by any means. So having the ball that late in the game was going to be huge.
Totally. Both goalies played well. The Anderson Moore kid had 12. McNaney had 11. Both of them woke up in the fourth quarter. McNaney had 5 in the fourth quarter. Moore had 4. I mean, you just compare this to the Princeton Syracuse game where what I say they had 96 total shots. There were 70 total shots in this game. There were 63 total shots on goal in the Princeton Syracuse game. There were 38 total shots on goal in this game. 38.
Yeah.
Nearly half the amount of
Yeah, I mean,
shots
you
on goal.
got every shot is so much more contested though. If you go back and look, there's not a lot of hands free, step down, feeds inside to some guy that just so happens to be naked,
Totally.
a little bit different.
Totally. Face-offs right down the middle, 9-9. Georgetown actually won the extra man battle, which I don't think they've done all year. Uh, but yeah, just a Maryland defense that is on a mission. And we'll talk. We'll look briefly at the games this weekend. We won't go into depth, but that Maryland Syracuse game is going to be a hell of a one. So two very contradicting styles, or I guess best on best. I don't. Maybe it's not contradicting. I think it's a little bit, but best on best. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Before we get anything else to close that one out. Sorry.
No, I just remembered my visit to UMBC when Coach Warren was an assistant there. I got a great story to tell one day, so don't don't let me forget that one. I love Coach Warren; he's the man.
Tell it. This is the time. Tell it.
I got picked up at the airport. UMBC was scrimmaging. I think it was VMI, some redshirt freshman's. Can't remember the kid's name. He picks me up, brings me right to the office. They're getting ready to go out and scrimmage and in the fall. And Coach Warren's sitting there, and big dude, scary face. Can be kind of intimidating, especially if you're a 16, 17-year-old kid. This is back in the day, overnight visit. They brought me down. He hands my host $50. He goes, receipts for everything but beer. And I looked at him. I'm like, I'm not. What are you talking about?
That's great.
He grabbed the money. He's like, get out of here. What are you doing?
That's great. That's great. The good old days.
Yeah.
Well, good. Before we jump into our little creative exercise, if you will, which I think will be fun. There was some big coaching news dropped today. Inside Lacrosse and Terry Foy tweeted out that sources are saying that Loyola has found their offensive coordinator. And the sources are saying that it is Justin Ward, the current offense coordinator of the Army Black Knights. Justin Ward is a Loyola alum. And if I remember correctly, he won a national championship with the Loyola Greyhounds in 2012. Thoughts?
It obviously still sucks that Coach Van was let go. I think you and I both feel very strongly he's one of the best in the business in a number of different ways, just as a human being and everything. But pretty good get for Loyola, a team that struggled a little bit, not just like, in the grand scheme of scoring and producing. Last few years have been a little down. My thing is, it's obviously great to get an alum to come back. Justin's an incredible coach. He's a great recruiter. Man, that guy works his bag off to, on the trail. It's going to be interesting to see, how it changes. Obviously, recruiting at the service academies, he's ahead of the game. He's probably got, a few 26 spots to fill still with Loyola now. But I think it's such a big get for Loyola. You not only take, a huge recruiting piece from the best team in your own conference. You take the guy that's scoring tons of, helping, Army score tons of goals in your conference. It's addition by subtraction in a lot of ways. And I just think Justin will, he'll be an immediate boost from a recruiting perspective. He's just got eyes on different kids. He's, I think he knows what he likes, and he coaches the shit out of kids. Everything that I've seen, I've always been really impressed with him. He's a great dude, as well. And I think he's found ways to get, Army doesn't get they have, don't get me wrong, some incredibly talented kids, but maybe not the most heralded recruits out there. And they get some big athletic, dudes, and he finds ways to make these pieces fit. And obviously they've got some really, high level talented kids. So I can't wait to see if he can, kind of help start bringing back some, really talented offensive players.
Yeah. I mean, a few things stand out to me. In conference is a wild move, but that is dampened by being an alum. I'd argue, I don't know. Maybe Loyola supports their team better than Army does. I'd have a hard time with the support of athletics at a place like Army, but maybe a little bit of a. I can't imagine you take a pay cut at his age, but maybe I'm wrong. The only thing I keep coming back to is that he's an alum, and that's why you do it. And if you won a national championship and you care about your school, that's why you go back and that's why you do it. Now, the one small thing that I think is interesting is he the head coach in waiting?
Who knows? Who's to say? You know, and I think Coach Toomey's one of the. He's an alum too.
Totally. And playing a national
He is
championship game as well.
he did, yeah, and like again, incredible coach.
Yes. Yes.
But Coach Dwan's been there for a minute, you know, every step of the way with Toomey. I think I don't know if Toomey's ever been there without him, and that's really interesting. Like again, right now, if you're picking a head coach to be the next Loyola head coach, you know, if you got to pick an alum, yeah, sure. Like I think Loyola is a place that would like that story, that that way to go about it. I don't know how. Who knows how much longer Coach Toomey's got left? Like he might have an idea, and
Right.
maybe Justin knows that. Who knows?
Yeah, and I can't imagine Coach Toomey hanging up anytime soon. He's a 1990 grad from Loyola. This season was his 20th year on the sidelines for the Greyhounds. If that's the case, I think Justin Ward's gonna have to wait a really long time. But again, we're just wrapping there. I haven't heard anything about this.
Yeah.
I will say, and nothing against Coach Van because I think Coach Van's the man, but maybe a little bit of youth injected into that coaching staff is going to be a positive. A different voice. I don't know, something to think about for sure.
Hey, look, like Coach Van was there when they had Pat Spencer. Pat Spencer's not he's incredible by himself, but Coach Van definitely helped him along the way. Um, you know, and I just think whatever lane they were in from a recruiting standpoint, like maybe a new fresh voice, fresh eyes on the trail is what you need sometimes. That's nothing wrong with that.
Totally, totally. Just to sort of a look around the country, other jobs that are open right now. You still got the Hobart head job open, St. Bonaventure head job open, and the Hampton head job open. And then assistant coaches, you've got Yale, seemingly Loyola has been filled, Bellarmine, Delaware, Robert Morris has an assistant spot open, and we don't talk about another man's job here, but there might be another school in the Ivy League that has an assistant coaching job open. Rumor mill is buzzing there, so something to keep an eye on
Army's
here.
going to have a spot too, right?
And now
So
Army, potentially. So uh, a lot of really good jobs out there. So it'll be interesting to see how the carousel starts to move this summer. After I think a couple of slow summers, quite honestly. So
yeah,
all right, time for our little creative exercise. Coach Bolkin did the lion's share of the work here, but what we're gonna do, we are going to look at alumni starting lineups for the four teams left in the Final Four, which I think will be fun. Give me a second here if I can close the Inside Lacrosse tab here. All right.
so the rules were had to be alums. Everybody's on the table. Can't be a current player. And it was just an interesting dive into some names that some that we don't even really know that well.
Totally.
To fill some of these spots.
Totally.
And I think it's so funny. Like obviously growing up in Cuse, like you could go back way back. You and I both just knowing names, but like it. I don't know. I'm sure there's some recency bias with. I hope somebody's got some discourse here. It'd be great to get somebody's feedback on some of this.
Agreed. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the alumni starting lineup. If we could pick a starting lineup out of all alumni from each school in the Final Four, who would they be? And because we're men of character, we only picked 3 attackmen, 3 midfielders, 3 defensemen, 1 LSM, 1 faceoff guy, and 1 netminder. So we're going to kick it off with Penn State. This was something that I added too. We added a coach to each team as well. I think we'll talk about the coach last, but let's go with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Started off. I'm gonna kick us off. Oh, there you go. I'm gonna kick us off with the. Actually, no. This was your thing. Let's give you the first 3 attackmen for the Penn State Nittany Lions.
And again, like you said, a little bit of recency bias, right? It's again, like Penn State, until Coach Tambo got there, didn't have a whole lot of star power. But, obviously there's Granament, there's Mac O'Keefe. At one point in time, the all-time leading goal scorer in college lacrosse history, big-time lefty shooter. TJ Malone, who, had an incredible career. Was he PLL Rookie of the Year too?
TJ Malone?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. Kid's a stud. Kids that I, was able to coach against, during their time in college lacrosse. So obviously seeing those kids up close is pretty crazy. Watching Mac O'Keefe shoot the ball is nuts, up close and personal, and terrifying if you're coaching against him. So, and then the guy that literally popped into my head a second ago, it was Matt McCready's. Maybe one of the first big time players I think that I really remember going to Penn State. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I feel bad that I didn't think of him off the jump, but he's a guy that definitely deserves some recognition there.
I mean, that's a hell of an attack unit, and 2 of them played together, and I'm pretty sure TJ might have been a freshman when those guys were seniors.
And they were right around the same era.
And maybe they missed each other. But yeah, so you got Penn State starting attack for the NNP alumni starting 10. Granament, Mac O'Keefe, TJ Malone, Mac McCready's getting that honorable mention. Then in the midfield, Penn State, we've got Pat Heim, Chris Schiller, and Nick Aponte. That's a hell of a midfield line. Pat Heim was a beast.
Yeah.
Back in the mid-2000s.
He was a first overall pick in the MLL at one point. Like he was beast. Like got up and down the field. He was electric. And then one guy that might be one of the older guys on this list entirely. No, that's not true. That was not fair to say about Schultz. But definitely the oldest guy on the Penn State roster that we've got here. He was my coach for the Charlotte Hounds. He was a player coach my last year playing. He's a monster. I'm pretty sure he played for the U.S. team at one point too. He just did everything, tough as nails. Unbelievable guy too.
I think I played against Pat Heim too, now that I think about it out loud. But honorable mention in the midfield for the Nittany Lions, Tom Hayes. Late 1970s, back-to-back first-team All-Americans. Hell of a career from Tom Hayes as well in the midfield. Moving on to the defense, I'm going to start with Nick Cardile and Dave Denecki. And then the third guy, I'm going to let you announce the third guy because I couldn't agree more with this one.
Chris Sabia.
Chris Sabia. Hell of a career. Some people don't know. We're going to talk about another guy who made a position change that made their alumni list for us. But Chris Sabia was a midfielder at the Haverford School coming out of high school. Shout out Coach Dawson. But Sabia was a midfielder, under-recruited. I think at least 1 knee surgery, if not 2. Was actually committed to Mount St. Mary's and then found himself at Penn State, flipped him into a defenseman, and is now the all-time caused turnovers leader at Penn State University. So Sabia is a hell of a name to round out that defense for sure for the Penn State alumni team. LSM, you got Matt Zappia, a hell of a career at LSM for sure. A couple of honorable mention All-American nods for him during his career. And then I'll let you take the face-off. I'll take the goalie.
Yeah. Well, I work for the guys, so I uh, definitely have to give Beast his props. Obviously, he's kind of the godfather of the position, but from a statistical standpoint, Gerard Arcieri took like an insane amount of faceoffs, owns basically every record. So I think Gerard was kind of the guy that helped them kind of break through into that next level, like Final Four level lacrosse. So I'd probably still have to give it to Greg, and then I'll let you finish up with the goalie here. But I think this was about as big a no-brainer as we have on the list.
Oh, man, this is a lock of all locks. Penn State's backstop, Drew Adams, lefty. Played for the Long Island Lizards for a really long time. Graduated from Penn State in 2009, and I'm pretty sure he played in the last season of the MLL, if I'm not mistaken. And if not the last season, because the last season might have been the COVID bubble. If not the last season, the season before. So a hell of a run for Drew Adams. Arguably the best goalie that I've ever seen in person. I think there's probably definitely there's some guys that have been around the game before my time that I didn't get to see play in person. But Drew Adams, lefty, lanky, long, just an incredible stopper of the ball. That was an absolute no-brainer. You're totally right. Let us know. Sound off. Who did we miss? Who did we snub? But I think that Penn State roster is pretty good, and we're going to tie this all together at the end. Let's jump into the Cuse. Okay, the Cuse. Oh no, sorry. We need a coach for the Penn State Nittany Lions alumni team. And yeah. I found this interesting when I was doing my research. There's only been 4 total head coaches in Penn State lacrosse's history, dating all the way back to 1913. And 2 of them were both named Glenn. Kind of interesting. But I think you got to give it to the guy that's taken him now to 2 Final Fours during his tenure. The West Jenny native, Jeff Tambroni. And I know he's the current coach right now, but I think taking the team to 2 Final Fours gets you the nod to be the head honcho for this alumni roster.
Yep.
Cool. Let's jump into the Cuse. All right, jump into the Cuse. You want to take the attack unit, or do you want me to take it since I vetoed you on it?
You didn't veto me. I was throwing stuff to the wall. I didn't finish it. You're throwing me under the bus here. You can go ahead. You got it.
All right, I'm taking it. Okay, and I think this one was pretty straightforward because they're 1, 2, and 3 in the record books and pretty much everything offensively for the Syracuse Orange. Ryan Powell, Casey Powell, Mikey Powell, all from the same household, Carthage, New York. Shout out Section 3 lacrosse, Carthage Comets. Those 3 dudes as your alumni attack unit is insane. It certainly puts you ahead of Penn State, I think, right off the bat. And maybe there's an argument that Ament, O'Keefe, and Malone are better, but I'd have a hard time believing you. But I do want to say 3 names that deserve honorable mentions, and I'm sure there's some people that are going to fight us on the 3 Powells. 3 honorable mention names for Syracuse's alumni attack unit: Tom Marichek, Tim Nelson, and the late, great John Zolberti. Those 3 dudes definitely needed to be named during this segment. I think the Powells still take it, but those 3 guys, Marichek, Nelson, and Zolberti, were just incredible Syracuse lacrosse players. Zolberti and Nelson both loved sharing the rock too. Zolberti was an assist machine. Tim Nelson actually, I believe, led Syracuse in career assists. Syracuse pumping out attackmen. You want to take the midfield? You want me to take that one, and then I'll let you do the defense?
I got the midfield. They talk about it all the time. Jim Brown, obviously one of the best athletes to ever play lacrosse. When they start making rules to stop you from being so dominant, you gotta take note of that. Obviously, I think if there was money to be made in lacrosse, Jim Brown probably would have played lacrosse. I think he liked it that much compared to football. And you got Gary and Paul Gate running in the midfield, like obviously two of the most creative players. The reason Cuse is almost seemingly the reason why Cuse plays the way that they do. These were guys that kind of supercharged that, under Coach Simmons. And then the two honorable mentions that we had for this, Roy Colsey, Dom Finn. I think Dom was a 3-time All-American. Guy was electric. Obviously, Roy Colsey was, a baller too. So those are kind of the three.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, the midfield line of Jim Brown and both Gate brothers is just arguably unstoppable. And then you got the three
Gorillas,
pals in
just
attack.
like huge monsters of men.
You keep rolling into the defense, and I'll let you
Yeah.
take the face-off guy too, and then I want to close it out with the goaltending position.
I just remember going up to the dome and watching Saul Bliss, just kind of an eraser type. Obviously he could get out and run too, but just an all time name. Just I think he was a first team All American at least once. Rick Beardsley, if you don't know, he was a 4-time All American. He'll tell you all about it. Love Rick Beast. But obviously he's when you are that good, you can talk about it as much as you want. But no, he's in terms of, we're talking flair and, with the ball in your stick. That guy played with as much of it as any pole you'll ever see. He was as confident in his abilities as any defenseman. And he's a mean motherfucker too. So again, he's a guy that knows his stuff, and just is able to play with a bunch of creativity. He's the loudest dude on the field. One of the best guys to have on your team in the Syracuse City League. Not a fun guy to play against in it. I can attest to both sides of that. So, and then last one, John Glatzel, sick athlete, just kind of a big rangy guy, from what I remember of him.
Totally. Now in net.
Oh, we got LSM.
Oh, sorry,
too.
LSM and face-off. Yeah, go ahead.
One of a contemporary of ours, like when your jersey gets retired, I think right after he finished as a short stick midfielder, and then the first day you get to Syracuse and a coach hands you a long pole, and then he literally looked like he got better stick skills as soon as he picked up a long pole. Like some guys, like after coaching long enough, and having asked kids to pick up a stick or a long stick, like some guys, like it just clicks for them, and it somehow did for Joel White. And yeah, I mean, obviously he was just an absolute animal, like in between the lines as a short stick 2-way midfielder. His game, like offensively, was elite with a pole.
Totally. And like we said, another guy that changed positions, like Chris Sabia. Joel White was a midfielder in high school, as you mentioned, and a pretty damn good one. Got recruited to Syracuse for it, and next thing you know, he's a Team USA LSM behind Earhart. Like just an incredible career. And then face-off X, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, the guy that made everybody at Syracuse stop whining about face-offs for at least for a little while. Ben Williams, transfer from Holy Cross. I think he's a Minnesota kid. But in a time when Cuse couldn't win a face-off to save their lives, he came along and kind of brought them back to, like that level of, like that was the thing that was legitimately hamstringing Cuse so bad. Losing games they shouldn't, not being able to win, tournament games, whatever it was. And Ben Williams came in and at least gave him the opportunity. The guy was automatic for 2-3 year span.
Other guys that are on the season winning percentage list for Syracuse, you've got Chris Searcy, 71%. You got Bill Derrigill from 1988. Durgel. Bill Durgel, 69, almost 70%.
Wait, is that Bill Durgel, like the old Loyola coach, Bill Durgel?
I don't know. Sounds like it.
It might be.
And then Chris Searcy again in 2001, 69%. And then Ben Williams, 67 in 2015. So you're the face-off guy. Chris Searcy has the career winning percentage, number one spot. Billy Durgel is 2, but if you're giving it to Ben Williams, I'm sure we'll hear about it in the comments. In goal, Syracuse has got a few names, okay, that we could choose from. The easy one, Coach John Galloway. He owns the 3 seasons of season goals against average. Lowest season goals against average. The next one that I like, Jay Pfeiffer. He played 63 career games and ranked second in school history with 725 saves. That is a lot of rubber. All right.
A lot of rubber.
Lot of rubber. And then the guy that I'm actually going to throw a curveball at, and I'm going to give this spot to, over Galloway. I think Galloway's 2. I think Pfeiffer is 3. The number 1 spot, the guy getting the nod on the Nothing Near Post Alumni Cuse roster, the one and only Matty Palum.
No.
And I'm going to tell you why. So
this was not cleared before we recorded.
This was not cleared. This was the curveball, and this is why it's going to go. So Galloway, career goals against average, 7.33, number 1 in Cuse history. But that was during a time, no shot clock, pace of play was slow, there were horns, right? Goals were at a premium, okay? So yes, obviously impressive. I mean, Galloway in 2011 had a 6.7 goals against average. In 2010, 7.16. And in 2009, a 7.64. But what I'm going to tell you right here, Matty Palum, career goals against average for Matty Palum, second all-time to Galloway. So Galloway's career goals against average was 7.33. Matty Palum in a time where games were 15-16, 17-18, goals, pace of play, Cuse was up and down the field. Matty Palum owns the second best career goals against average at 8.4. 8.4 career goals against average for Matty Palum in an era where the ball was up and down the field, transition was everything. The other thing, Matty Palum, that he has over John Galloway is his career save percentage, 63.1%. John Galloway at 56.6. And again, third, 63.1, Matty Palum, behind Travis Solomon from 81 to 83 and Tom Nims from 81 to 85, which I'd assume those two dudes split time during those eras. So obviously less shots. Actually, no, Tom Nims had a ton of saves. But Matty Palum's my guy. Okay, he's getting the nod. Season save percentage.
Did Matty Palum win any?
Yes.
National championship?
Yes.
How many?
He was a starting goalkeeper from 1987 to 1990, so he played with the Gates. Helped lead the Orange to 3 consecutive NCAA Division I men's lacrosse national championships in 88, 89, and 90. 3 for the kid, for the man, who also sounds like he tore his hamstring this weekend, so he had to sub himself out. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yeah. That actually, that guy's got a way of somehow finding a way to be center of attention, even if he wasn't doing anything at all.
So again, another reason why he's my Syracuse goaltender. 1988 championship game, Palum was named the NCAA tournament's most outstanding player after making 21 saves in a 13-8 victory over Cornell. And this is insane. Career at Syracuse, a remarkable 40-2 record as a starter for a 95% winning percentage.
Hey, that's pretty good.
So,
right.
Matty Palum's getting the nod over your boy, Coach Galloway. And then the coach. It's got to be Roy Simmons Jr., umpteen national championships. He brought that program to what it is and what it's known as today. So Coach Simmons is getting the head nod for the head honcho.
Fair enough.
I think the only one we missed here is potentially the Ben Williams one, so people will probably sound off about that. But there's
I love
probably there's
Cersei he was legit. I remember him. I remember baking my Brian Edge to his specifications. I remember reading it inside the Carousel. So like, don't get me wrong, he's a name I considered.
I'll also be interested to see what people think about the attack unit with the three Powell brothers leaving off Marichek, Nelson, and Zilberti. Because I mean, you go back to the record book. I want to make sure I get it right. Like Tim Nelson and Zilberti both are. So if you look at 200-point club for Syracuse, Mikey Powell 307 career points, insanity. Casey Powell 287, Ryan Powell 287. And then you got Tim O'Hara at 282, Tim Nelson at 271, and John Zilberti 267. Tom Marichek right behind him at 258. So just dudes putting up points. And then Gary Gate at 253 out of the midfield is just insane. But I think those three guys with the most career points, it's going to be hard to argue. But Tim Nelson, 5th, Zilberti, 6th, Tom Marichek, 7th in career points.
You know who, one guy that I feel like deserves at least a little bit of a shout out, he's our era too, came into Cuse. He's like the least like flashy defenseman. You know, obviously that's mostly what defense is if you're doing it right. But lunch pail dude was John Lade.
Absolutely.
He went to Villanova his freshman year. He was in the same class as Brian Carousel. They brought in basically the two most impactful polls in that era. And unfortunately for Villanova, John Lade left to go.
An NP fan. Regret to inform you that our last two rosters got lost in the shuffle as we were recording. So going to put these out on Twitter, but wanted to give you the rundown. Unfortunately, we're going to miss some of the insights from Coach Bulk and myself, but wanted to go through these lists. So next team up, we had Cornell. Attack, you had Jeff Teat, Rob Pennell, and Eamon McEnany. In the midfield, you had Sebald, Connor Busick, and Roy Lang. On defense, you had Belisle, Noble, and Ryan McClay. At LSM, and again, this is all for Cornell's alumni roster. At LSM, the heart and soul of this team and this program still to this day, George Boyardi, taken from us way too soon, the hard hat, number 21. At the faceoff X, you had John Glenn, and Coach Bolkin spoke to this really well, but John Glenn was the third leading midfielder on this team in points, as well as facing off north of 65%. Insane. And then you got Coach Schmoller. Coach Schmoller owns some incredible records for the Cornell Big Red. 787 career saves, most all-time at Cornell. He also is second in saves in a season at 241, as well as 7th and 9th for season saves. But my favorite one, there are 10 games in Cornell history that are listed as the most saves in a game. Schmoller, owns 4 of those records. He had 27 twice, once in 1988 and once in 1989. Against North Carolina, 27, and Brown, he had 27. He had 28 against Hobart in 1987, and then the number one spot, 34 saves against Syracuse in 1987 for the most all-time in a single game. Just incredible stuff out of Paul Schmoller being the backstop for the Cornell Big Red. And then the man holding the clipboard, the one and only Richie Moran, obviously did a ton for the Cornell program. Believe he was the head coach when they last won a national championship in 1977, and also did a ton for the Ireland national team program, getting that off the ground. Last but not least, we got the Maryland roster. This one's a doozy, a hell of a team. 3 attackmen, Jared Bernhardt, Joe Walters, and Matt Rambo. In the midfield, you got Joe Cummings, Shannon Chuck, and Frank Urso. Frank Urso, an absolute legend in Terp Nation. And then on defense, you got Jesse Bernhardt, Mr. Team USA. You got Pasavia and Lee Zink to round out the defensive unit, with some honorable mentions to Brett Makar, Sanoski, both Max and Brett Schmidt, and Brian Farrell. And then at LSM, arguably the best player on the team, Michael Earhart. If Jesse Bernhardt is not Mr. USA, Michael Earhart definitely is. Just a humongous human being, space eater, and has been a staple on Team USA. At the faceoff X, you had Weirman, who just was absolutely dominant for the Terps during his time, and the backstop, Brian Doherty. Now, he didn't win an NCAA national championship, but he led the Terps to the national championship game in 1995. And despite the loss that they took to Syracuse in that game, 13-9, Doherty was named the tournament's most outstanding player after making 59 saves across the semifinal and final games. So 2 games, 59 saves. Just insane work from Doc back there. And the coach for the Maryland Terps alumni NNP team, the one and only, the big man, Dick Adele. You look at these 4 teams, Maryland's matched up with Syracuse. I just think Syracuse's offense is way too potent. 3 Powell brothers that attack, Jim Brown, Gary Gate, and Paul Gate in the midfield. Cuse moves on. And then I think Cornell gets the dub over Penn State pretty handily. And that puts us with a Cornell-Syracuse final in the NNP alumni roster matchup. And I think that game would be an absolute barn burner. You got Schmoller in net going up against Matty Palum. You got John Glenn at the faceoff X, who might dominate that matchup. But in the end, that Syracuse offense is just too much. They find a way to deal with John Glenn at the faceoff X, find ways through that Cornell defense of Belisle, Noble, and McClay and Boyardi. And the Cuse wins a double overtime thriller, 16-15. So that was a fun little exercise that we did. Apologies that it got cut a little bit, but looking ahead to this weekend, enjoy it. It's our last weekend of college lacrosse. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a preview out later this week. Don't forget about the D2 and D3 games. Sunday night, 7 o'clock, Tufts, Dickinson. A little Sunday night football, Tom Brady at Gillette Stadium style. Enjoy it all. You got the People's goalie, Division II matchup. Tampa headed back to the championship game. People's goalie Connor Terrio leading the way for the Tampa Spartans. Going to be an awesome weekend of lacrosse. And always remember, if nothing else, championship weekend, rule number 1. And if it's not, respecting the troops and remembering those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms, it's nothing near post.